London and Brussels are fighting for a successor to Brexit. If no agreement is reached by the end of the year, relations between the EU and Great Britain threaten to become difficult and disorderly. There is already a first agreement between the European Union and Great Britain, the divorce agreement from last year. On this basis, the United Kingdom left the EU on January 31st. In the agreement, important details are already set out on almost 600 pages. The rights of the citizens of the other side are recognized. However, EU citizens who want to continue to live and work in the UK will need a residence permit in the future. It describes the rules by which the cost of divorce is calculated. London will continue to have to deposit money into various EU pots even after the final separation from Brussels. Great Britain committed itself to this during its EU membership. Experts estimate that it will be the equivalent of around 45 billion euros in the next 30 years. Specific agreements have also been made for Northern Ireland in order to avoid border controls between the British province of Ulster and the Republic of Ireland. Thereafter, many rules of the EU internal market and the EU customs union continue to apply in Northern Ireland. Any necessary import and export controls should be carried out between Northern Ireland and the British heartland. However, the new internal market law that the Johnson administration is planning to bring through Parliament these days contradicts these agreements. In the event that no trade agreement is reached, the British government wants to freely determine the rules for imports and exports as well as state aid. However, this could lead to different economic rules in Ireland and Northern Ireland, which should be explicitly avoided by the divorce agreement. The EU therefore sees the British government's plans as a breach of international law and has asked them to withdraw this passage by the end of September. Last year's exit agreement provides for a transition period during which everything will initially remain the same. This transition period ends on December 31st. It could have been extended for up to 2 years, but Boris Johnson's government has always categorically ruled out this option. And now, by the end of the year, not only agreements on future trade, but also, for example, cooperation in culture and science, as well as the exchange of data for law enforcement, must be reached. If no comprehensive agreement can be reached, there is a threat of a no-deal scenario that would have far-reaching consequences. And many consequences no one even thought about in the public so far. Because then the rules of the World Trade Organization, the WTO, will apply to the exchange of goods between the EU and Great Britain. So there are tariffs that make the import and export of products more expensive in both directions. The import of raw materials, the free movement of goods and supply chains would be affected. For the auto industry, for example, this would mean that the vehicle parts required that are manufactured in the EU or Great Britain would take longer to travel and become more expensive. This also makes the end product more expensive then. Up to 10,000 lorries pass through the British ferry port in Dover every day. The processing currently takes about 2 minutes per vehicle on average. The British government expects that 50 to 85% of drivers will not have the correct papers with them in the first few months and that the checks will therefore take longer. The port operators warn an extension of 2 minutes would create a truck jam almost 30 kilometers long in front of Dover. Nobody really knows what will happen at the borders then. According to the exit agreement, numerous rules of the EU internal market and the customs unions continue to apply in Northern Ireland, for example for product standards and state aid for companies. Controls between the EU and Great Britain should only take place once the products have made their way from Northern Ireland to the British heartland and vice versa. It is unclear whether the British authorities have now set up the necessary logistics. In the European Common Aviation Area, the internal market for air traffic, European airlines are allowed to offer routes throughout the EU. If there is no agreement, British Airways could still fly between the island and the continent, but no longer within the remaining EU countries. The airline EasyJet has therefore already founded a subsidiary based in Austria, which will then offer routes between EU countries. So far, the European Medicines Agency, which has just moved from London to Amsterdam, has approved medicines for all countries in the EU. How it will proceed in the event of a no deal is not known. In the preparations for a no deal last year, a special regulation was discussed that should at least allow the transport of essential medicines across the new border. In addition, the UK government has also asked its pharmaceutical industry to keep stocks for at least 6 weeks. Great Britain is not a member of the Schengen Agreement, so it is necessary to have your passport or identity card with you when entering the country. Well, that was the same before. Whenever I entered the UK, I needed my ID. But if there is no agreement, a decision has to be made on how to deal with tourist travel. For example, whether limited tourist visas will be issued once again. In Great Britain, the EU driving license will no longer be valid in the event of a no-deal Brexit. And vice versa. Travellers are advised to get an international driver's license in good time. It is also recognized in Great Britain how to deal with data and how to protect data. This area, which has received little public attention so far, could have the greatest impact because it concerns the flow of data between the EU member states, for example when shopping or online banking. This data exchange has so far only been legally possible on servers within the EU, and time is running out. Because even if the negotiating partners come to an agreement quickly, the EU Parliament and all national parliaments and several regional parliaments will have to approve an agreement this year so it can come into force on January 1st next year. Just a small information for you, YouTube just activated memberships on my channel, so if you want to have some exclusive content in the future, have a look and maybe you join. And if you now want to know more about European politics, YouTube has chosen another of my videos right here for you in the end screen, right next to your chance to subscribe to my channel. I'll see you in my next video. Click and enjoy. Viel Spaß!